Be careful who you laugh at, because the tables always turn. 3 years ago, Ethan laughed when I couldn't afford lunch. Today, he stood across from me in a boardroom, begging for funding from the company I built. Life has a strange way of repaying arrogance with irony. That moment, him stuttering, realizing who I was, played in my mind like a scene I'd been waiting to watch. But to understand how we got there, you need to know how far down I'd fallen before I learned to rise. Back then, I was broke, desperate, and invisible. I had left a toxic job after my ideas were stolen, and I was determined to start something of my own. I was living out of a cramped apartment with peeling paint and a leaky faucet that kept me awake at night. Ethan, my former college friend, was already climbing the ladder. He wore designer suits and drove a sleek car that gleamed under the streetlights. We met for coffee once, and he looked me up and down before laughing. "Man, you still chasing that dream? Maybe it's time you face reality." I laughed along to hide the sting, but that sentence branded itself into my memory. I spent the next few months juggling side gigs, freelance work, odd jobs, anything to stay afloat. My dream was to launch a financial tech platform that could help small business owners get microloans without the red tape of big banks. I called it Lendly. Everyone I pitched to said the same thing: too ambitious. Everyone except one old professor who believed in me enough to write a small check, $5,000 that felt like $5 million at the time. I used it to build my prototype. I learned coding from YouTube tutorials, designed my own logo, and cold emailed investors until my fingers cramped. But every no built me stronger. Every door that shut forced me to find a window. I remember eating instant noodles at midnight, staring at my laptop screen, whispering to myself, just one breakthrough. One. The breakthrough came when a small local business owner used my app to get a microloan and publicly thanked me online. That single post changed everything. Within a week, small entrepreneurs started signing up. I didn't sleep for 3 days, trying to handle customer requests manually because I couldn't afford an automated system yet. Ethan's company, an investment firm, mocked startups like mine. They called them hobby projects. One day, he posted a tweet that read, "Some people mistake desperation for passion." I knew it was about me. It didn't matter. I used the anger as fuel. I pitched to 20 more investors, and when the 21st said yes, I knew it was time to start scaling. The investor offered seed funding in exchange for a small share. I agreed, and for the first time, Lendly had breathing room. What followed was a blur of work, risk, and relentless hope. I hired 2 interns, rented a single-room office, and built a real platform with real users. The numbers grew, and so did my confidence. I turned every failure into a formula. When one server crashed, I rebuilt it twice as strong. When a customer complained, I turned their feedback into new features. Slowly, Lendly became a trusted name among small business owners. 3 years later, Lendly wasn't just a startup, it was a movement. We had offices, employees, and a valuation I hadn't even dreamed of. I was no longer the broke guy Ethan laughed at. I was the CEO of a company investors were fighting to get into. That's when fate, or karma, sent him back into my orbit. It was a Thursday morning when my assistant walked into my office holding a file. "Next pitch meeting," she said, "is with Orion Capital." I flipped through the documents and froze. The lead partner was Ethan Hale. The same man who laughed when I was broke. My heart pounded, not from fear, but anticipation. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. "Schedule it," I said. "Let's see how much he's changed." The day of the meeting, he walked in wearing the same smug expression I remembered. But the moment he saw me at the head of the table, his smile evaporated. "Daniel," he stammered. "You're the CEO." I nodded, savoring every second of silence that followed. He tried to regain composure, fumbling with his slides as he pitched a struggling tech startup that needed a major investor. He needed funding desperately. The irony wasn't lost on me. As he spoke, I remembered every condescending word, every smirk, every time he'd called me unrealistic. The tables had turned completely. When he finished, I asked one question: why should we trust you to deliver value when your past partnerships ended in failure? His throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. He stuttered through an answer that didn't convince anyone. My board exchanged glances. The decision was clear before he even left the room. After the meeting, my CFO asked, Do you want to invest out of courtesy? He's an old acquaintance, right? I smiled faintly. Courtesy, I said. He didn't believe in courtesy when I needed a chance. I signed the rejection myself. That night, I stood on my balcony overlooking the city. Neon lights reflected off the glass towers, the air buzzing with quiet ambition. I thought about how quickly life can shift, from being overlooked to being the one making decisions. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about closure. But karma wasn't done. Weeks later, Ethan showed up at a public tech conference, pitching the same company to another group of investors. I was one of the keynote speakers. When he saw me step onto the stage, his face drained of color. I opened my speech with the same words he once threw at me. Some people mistake desperation for passion, but sometimes, that desperation builds empires. The audience laughed and applauded. I looked directly at him and continued my speech. After the event, he approached me, his pride stripped away. Daniel, he said quietly, you really made it. I studied him for a moment and replied, no. I built it. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. Maybe I deserved this. I didn't respond. Some lessons don't need words. Months later, Lendly expanded internationally. We launched in 3 countries, partnered with global banks, and became a symbol of perseverance. Success didn't erase the pain of being humiliated, but it made it meaningful. The struggle had sculpted me into someone who didn't just survive, but thrived. At our anniversary celebration, I stood before hundreds of employees and said, this company started with one person being told you can't. Let that be your reminder. Every rejection is just redirection. The crowd cheered, and I felt something deep settle in my chest, peace. Years later, I saw Ethan's name again. His firm had gone under. He had filed for bankruptcy. I didn't feel joy or pity, just understanding. Life gives everyone a mirror eventually. Some people don't like what they see. In the end, this wasn't just a revenge story. It was a lesson written in resilience. Never mock someone fighting their storm. Because one day, you might have to knock on their door for shelter. And when that day comes, they'll remember everything you said when you thought they'd never rise. So, to the Ethans of the world, laugh if you must. But remember, tables turn. And when they do, the sound they make is unforgettable.